Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. And thank you so much for joining me tonight on the late one in review, where we look at some of the top news of this week. You might see my little get up tonight. I'm trying to get my audio in a certain order. And I'm just going to go straight to it. Today is the um, 17th of February, 2022. And we're moving on into the next level. The next level, which is the end of the year coming up very soon. Crazy, I'm talking about the end of the year. There's so many things which are happening. Possibility of Ukraine and Russia, possibility of war. They're talking about children being vaccinated, 5 to 11. Interesting days. I thought COVID was on his way out. Interesting days at the same time where Prince Andrew, one of the questions people are asking is Prince Andrew problems our problems? That is very interesting. But without further ado, let me just bring in my guest this afternoon. I'll go straight to Adam. How are you doing, Adam? Okay, you're muted. I want to make sure. Is it me or is it you, Adam? Muted. Let me bring in Yolanda to see if it is actually from my side. Ready? Let me check Yolanda. Yolanda, can you hear me?
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, fantastic. Okay. So I'll wait for Adam to sort out what is actually happening there. Adam? What? Yes, I can hear you. Adam, what you can do is to go out and just to come right back in. Okay? Okay, good. I'll do that. Yolanda, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Yeah? Are you ready to tell us what's happening in the world?
Yeah.
You know, I have Reverend Garry Graham. He's gonna come in shortly. But first of all, how are you doing? And what's your take on this world that we're living in? This crazy world at this time, post-COVID era.
It's just been crazy. We just have to, adjust to whatever is happening in the world and whatever is
Mm.
coming our way. So I think everybody just had to adjust to COVID and just get on with it.
But in a way, COVID is getting out. Let me just see if I can bring in Adam. Adam, I can hear you.
Evening, Sylbourne. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you clear. Are you looking better now? You got the right angle there.
I'm always looking good, Sylbourne.
Looking smashing there, you know. I was just saying to Yolanda what's going on in the world, and she said COVID, and I'm saying I thought COVID is gone and done long time. We talk about Russia now, isn't it? The move
Hi,
from
Yolanda.
one thing-
Hi.
you know. How did you guys feel with this weather?
It's been a little bit drizzly today, but I've not heard the 100-mile-an-hour winds that were suggested earlier on today. I mean, I think it's coming. But mainly the southwest is been battered by the winds. I think the Midlands, it may be that we're a few hours away.
Was it Chris Whitty talking about the weather? Was it Chris Whitty talking about it? Or Boris?
If it's Chris Whitty, I suspect you might not believe it, Sylvan.
I'm sorry?
You might not believe it if it's Chris Whitty. I don't know. I mean, I think he should stick to vaccinations and COVID, I think, rather than the weather.
You know. But listen, let's just go straight into it. You know, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for those joining on Facebook and Instagram. Those on Instagram, you're not going to hear the guest speaking. It's only in my ear, but you can go onto the YouTube channel or Facebook, Sylbourne TV, and you can actually see the show. Prince Andrew problem. I'll go straight into that. But let's deal with that one quickly and get it out of the way because everybody's talking about it. Prince Andrew problem. Is that our problem?
No.
Okay. All right. Why you say it's not our problem? Huh? Yolanda, she's there.
Shall I start on this one?
Yeah, yeah. You start on that one there. Yeah.
I mean, I think it is our problem from the point of view.
Hi, Gary. How are you? Yeah.
He is, he is Prince Andrew, and he was formerly His Royal Highness Prince Andrew, and whatever you say, he has damaged the royal brand,
Yeah,
with his behaviour, and that is the reason why Buckingham Palace, the Queen, have acted in stripping him of his title and various other positions that he held. So yes, I mean he is our problem in that sense, and something has been done about it. I mean, if you think of that now, the infamous interview with I forget the reporter, but on Newsnight,
Mattis lady there or something like that.
Yes, thank you. The name still escapes me, actually. And he clearly wasn't telling the whole truth, was he? I mean, if you reflect on that interview and what's happened since, it doesn't come up to scratch, and there was clearly a desire to avoid him giving a deposition in America, which obviously we don't do that here, do we? Sylbourne, we have written statements. We don't do depositions here, but there's clearly a desire to prevent him from doing that, and I can see why that would have further damaged the
monarch,
the royal brand, the royal brand as a whole. I think there's a question at the moment. It may not be being said by lots of different parties, the media as such, but do we have a right to know about the settlement? He's paid off Virginia Giuffre. He's paid her off. I mean, I think the suggestion is about £11 million, but that's not bad, is it? Really, £11 million.
But they talk about 12 million, 15 pounds, 15 million, and all those different things, pounds.
Yes, a lot of money. Should we have a right to know whether the Queen has given him any money, whether any of that is the royal grant or whether it's a private income? So, I mean, I think if it's a private income, given the Queen's service to this country,
yes,
the Queen has served Britain so well over a number of decades. Absolutely, I mean, she's been a stalwart. That, I mean, I think we need to uphold her dignity in all of this as well, and bear that in mind. I would say certainly if it's private income of the Queen, then it's not something that we should be looking to get too involved. I mean, it is a shameful day. Well, it's been a shameful. It's more than a day actually. It's been a shameful bit of time, but I think we have to just leave it where it is now.
Yolanda, come back in. Does it matter where does he get his money from?
No, I don't think it matters where he got his money from. I think people put in too much interest in where he got his money from. He's already sorted out the settlement and it's already been paid off. It shouldn't matter where the money comes from.
Gary?
That's reading too much into their personal life, in my opinions.
But the prince is what you consider to be the taxpayers. Many people say the taxpayers are the one who are paying them.
But it's the same, like, okay, for example, if you get paid, it doesn't matter, like, and you work for it, doesn't matter where the money comes from. It comes out of your pocket if you need to pay for anything, bills or whatever the case may be. So I don't think it should be that much of a concern.
Gary, what's your take on this? Is this some moral thing? What is this? What's going on with Prince Andrew? I mean, is it our business?
Well, hello everybody. It's good to see you back, Adam.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and it's good to have Yolanda on tonight.
Yeah. On
the Sylbourne Studio Show, worldwide.
Worldwide. We go global.
Yeah. Well, Prince Andrew, is it an admission of guilt? They say that he has paid him off or paid her off. when he has always maintained that, he never did anything. Those things are always very shady, really, dealings. However, I would agree with Yolanda to say that it's nobody's business, but it's me that's what sells the papers. You get something. Now what's so funny is that nobody knows how much, but all of a sudden 11 million comes up, or 12 million, or 15 million, but nobody really knows. Again, it's all speculation. That is what sells papers. So if they can speculate, then that's what's going to sell, and it's just the media frenzy, really. Media causes problems, and even if it's not true, they'll always put a spin to it. So, I am. It's up to Andrew what he wants to do. His life in the royal family, even though he's a part of it, he'll always be a part of it. But it's over for him.
Yes.
You know. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I just was just saying, because I'm looking at the different headlines and said, how big is this settlement? How does Prince Andrew get his money from? Could the settlement be funded by the Queen or with public money? So okay. So therefore, if he pays the money, then it's okay or whatever like that. But I think there's some sort of hypocrisy going on at the same time, where everybody's so perfect and so innocent in any ways. I don't know. Maybe he made some mistake in the past. One doesn't know if he actually was in collusion with Epstein at that time, but he actually was, being sowing his royal oats different places.
You see, to me, Sylbourne,
Yeah,
this is humanity.
yeah,
This is man. We do things, all of us, to some extent.
yeah,
It doesn't matter. I'm not asking. Well, we all know that we have done something, whether it's small or whether it's large. We've done something probably that we regret. But when we actually doing it, whenever we're actually doing whatever it is that we do, we don't think of the repercussions.
yeah,
When he was with Epstein, whenever that was, they never saw that in 2021 or 22, that his name would be in lights, standing beside a girl, taking a picture, and the girl would actually be accusing him of, let's say, rape or abuse. They never thought of it. And so, if all of a sudden, Sylbourne, we then heard that, you were part of the Brinksmat robbery, and you've got several million stashed somewhere underneath your mattress. What then? I mean,
I wouldn't be doing this show. Adam and I would be running some conglomerate empire.
I'm gonna slightly
But
go against the grain there.
yeah,
On this point, Reverend, that I think that Prince Andrew, his insight should have been stronger. He was associating with Jeffrey Epstein after he'd been convicted as a sex offender in the US, and was, as I understand it to be, he was not only associating with him, but also flying to a remote island to associate with him. And, he would have been given advice from people around him, undoubtedly, that this is not a person, given what's happened in America, given his conviction, he's not a person that you should be associated with.
Yeah.
And even in spite of that, he continued to do that. And I think there is either some cognitive difficulty there, or just a simple arrogance and thinking that he can just do whatever he wants. So I think, unfortunately, I would say the latter, because Andrew's not somebody who you would say is cognitively slow in any way. He seems to understand and process things. So clearly, it may well have been arrogance. He thought, well, I don't really care. I'm going to do what I want and hang around this guy that I consider as my friend.
Well, I stand to be corrected, because I would agree with what you're saying. I mean, he would have more than us, to some extent, those around him that knows the circumstances, and he would receive I'm quite sure from what you're saying, good intelligence to say don't get messed up with this gentleman, or else you're asking for trouble, kind of stuff. So I would agree with you that yes, he would receive some counsel at some stage to say, listen, you don't want to be seen with this man, or you don't want to be associated. Don't go on this plane. Don't
Yeah.
do this. Don't go to the island. Because obviously, if it's coming out now that he's done several things on the island, and it was during the time that he used to fly either over it or under it or land on it,
Yeah.
obviously it's going to stick, and it's going to stick to him. But as you said, sometimes people in power and in great influence, because they think they've got the power or they've got the influence, they think that nothing's going to happen. Arrogance, and you use the word arrogance. And I could even viewing him, Andrew, on the television on
Yeah.
past views or so, you can more or less see a bit of arrogance about him. Yes, you can, and I think that's what's destroyed him. Really, that's what's destroying him.
Do you think this sort of brings up the question, and of course this is what many medias have been saying, the relevance of the monarch, and after the Queen there should be consideration whether they need to get rid of the monarch. That's what many people are talking about at the same time. They don't feel like they need to be supporting Andrew, supporting Prince Charles. They say bring back Harry, you know, or William or so, you know. Do you think there's any question about the monarch at this time moving forward in light of Prince Andrew? Because I think what I'm actually trying to say is that many people are saying that it is like they are beyond reproach, but that is like they are untouchables. You got dark forces that protect them. That's what I would say. And people are feeling a bit like, hey, come on, these guys are just okay. They can do anything and get away with it.
So it's kind of like they have no one to answer to, and it's kind of a power play whereby they can do whatever they want to do without any repercussion.
Any questions?
But I think the monarch for the British people stand as a long tradition. So I don't think it's just something as easy to say should we get rid of it. I think in time with changing times, it could be looked at, but it's something that is a long-term tradition, long-standing way of the British people, I suppose. So yeah.
Adam, what's your take on that? That question which I put up there, the relevance of the monarch?
I would agree with Yolanda. There is not an appetite amongst the public to get rid of the monarchy, and I suppose, I mean, if there were that appetite, then and there was an appetite from government to look at the issue, then we would probably be able to take this conversation seriously. I don't think it is a serious conversation, Sylbourne. I can understand why the question has been raised, but it's not serious because neither the government nor I think the general public at large, the majority, feel that it's something to be questioned. I think there are potentially in the long term there are questions about the monarchy, whether it can, how long it should go on for. There are issues around, Prince Charles, because I mean he's had a difficult history himself. Let's not remember, and some would say that out of the lot of them, Princess Anne is probably the most, in terms of behaviour, in terms of respect. She would be a really good candidate for Queen, but it's going to be Charles, and then it's going to be William, and as Yolanda said, that's tradition, and I can see that tradition going on and on.
Gary, last word on that.
One word, just last word.
Last word on that.
I think, right? I think that, well, look what's happened in the last couple of days, just a day, where now allegations are coming up about Prince Charles.
Prince Charles.
That was underneath the carpet from how many years ago, and it's
cash for peerage.
Yeah. Now, I really don't think the Queen, and even though it's going to Charles, I don't think the Queen has an appetite for Charles to be king. I think she...
Yeah, but she just gave her a blessing for Camilla.
But she has to. She has to. Because that's how it's going to go. But what I'm saying, I think it's William. I really think William should be the one to take over, not Charles. Probably Charles will hold on to it for a while and give it to his son. But I think the country is at the right time for William to take over. Whether the country wants a royal or not wants a royal family, let's remember history on the royal family. The history of the royal family is not British; they're German.
They're German, yeah.
Yeah, they're German. No, I'm not that. I'm saying that not to. I'm not against the royal family. I'm just trying to say we've got to look at the royal family for who they are. They are not British per se. They are just as an immigrant as we.
Right.
So they are German. They changed their name. I'm sure Adam and Yolanda know the history. Is that they changed their name to the House of Windsor because of World War II and Hitler. So they wanted to let's say get the stench of German, off them, so that if anything happens, they wouldn't be shot or killed or whatever.
Yeah.
Their name. So let's remember to some extent that the royal family. I love the Queen. I don't have a problem with the Queen or with the family, really. I mean, it's neither near here nor there for me. I just think that I just think that it's just sad that Prince Andrew has brought a stain on the family in this way. Yeah, and Edward has kept his nose clean from day one.
Yeah.
If nobody knows Edward, nobody would ever know he exists.
Yeah.
He's just living his life and doing what he can. He had a little up and down when he started his production company some years back, but he's kept his nose clean. Charles, he did what he did, and we all know what he did, even though the law won't stick. And and Anne, we know what happened to Anne. She was like her dad, up and down, cussing if she wants to, but at least you know that whatever she said, she meant, and that was it. But it's just Andrew. But I think the royal family is okay. I mean,
well, there's a song which is going around, and I can't play it because I get copyright. As far as I'm concerned, it's just drink water and mind my own business. You know what I'm saying? It's a powerful song, Adam. Drink water and mind my own business. You're not even wine, Drink water and mind your own business. And a guy said earlier today, what he said is, we need to get our money back, And I said, Virgil, go and sit down, man. Get which money back, It's like when you give, it's like when you give your money to a beggar, and you see the beggar take the money and go on to do something. You want to take it back, you can't take it back. You gave it to him. You know what I mean?
Playing devil's advocate on this.
Yeah.
I mean, the Queen receives a healthy royal grant, and that is taxpayers' money. And so, and Andrew previously received, was it $250,000? Probably more from the taxpayer. And so, if the taxpayer, I would go against what Yolanda said earlier, that it's not like any other public sector job. The taxpayers pay for pretty much every part of their living. We pay for their the upkeep, the maintenance of their homes, the cars, the travel, the clothes. It's pretty much. I mean, they have a private income, but pretty much their lifestyle is paid for by the UK taxpayer. And so, no, I don't believe any other public servant has that level of grants, that level of pay, that level of those perks that come with the monarchy. And therefore, that does raise a question, a legitimate question, although I've said, I think there's a line to be drawn as to whether the taxpayer should have a right to know how that money, and if that money, is being used in a civil lawsuit in America to pay off somebody who is allegedly a victim of a sexual crime, being trafficked or I'm just going to call it a sexual crime at this point. So there is an argument there, although and it goes along those lines. But I really think just because of my respect for the Queen, I wouldn't want to at this stage in her tenure, because I can't think there'll be too long left. That it's right to divulge too much into what's going on. But I think in any other circumstance there would be certainly legitimate need to find
I
out.
want to move quickly, but look at that comment there. Comment from someone.
Their questions.
What do you say about that comment there? What on someone actually saying that they're culpable in a certain way, or they have questions to be answered as far as the moniker is concerned. Extent of their involvement with Savile was never investigated. Andrew paid his way out of uncovering a big can of worms, or so, you know.
Well, yes. I mean, I would have. Well, I mean, why all along, as has been stated, why all along has he denied? He's denied. He's denied. He's denied. But then all of a sudden, he's willing to pay out of court. Why?
Could it be because he was trying to kill the story as to avoid a more big of a scandal, or is it a form of guilt? There's so many questions that arise from just that one action alone.
Adam, why do people settle sometime? And I was listening to a QC, and he was saying once you get into that box there's so much to lose once you get into cross examination and all those sort of things, you know, whether people guilty or not. Sometimes it's just the dirt which is going to come out. Adam, explain a bit on that.
Well, I mean, given the way he performed in the Newsnight interview, I mean, it was always going to be, any deposition was always going to be awful, wasn't it? Really, I mean, he's just no good at talking and giving evidence. Nobody believes him. But I think with Andrew, the problem is it's not just a case of a simple risk analysis. When you look at an agreement, you're looking at potential costs, damage to reputation. It's everything is magnified with Prince Andrew. It also reflects on the Royal brand as a whole. So it was, it was always more than just any other settlement. This was, and the need to settle was really pressing. I was surprised how quickly it happened, because there was talk that Virginia Giuffre wanted at least for the deposition to happen. But clearly, the sum of money, the scale of it must have been so significant that there's no way you could turn it down. I would have thought. I mean, that's why it settled so swiftly.
Yeah.
And the terms of it mean that he didn't even have to. He didn't accept it, did he? Really? I mean, he accepted that she'd been victim of the victim of sexual abuse, but he didn't accept in any way that he was part of that or did anything to her. Your commentator, the sheriffess, sounds a bit like mentioning Jimmy Savile. Sounds a bit like Boris Johnson 2.0.
Yeah.
He said the same thing.
Often children went missing in Canada in the 60s. Well, this will take us to another level, but these are all questions that many people are asking, about liability, culpability, and all those sort of things. That's why we talk about that they are beyond reproach. Certain things are beyond reproach. I mean, Boris Johnson flagged up the other day about Savills, and everybody is saying it's because Boris Johnson said about Savills with Karen Starmer. That is why people attack Karen Starmer. But anyway, Ukraine, a guy was on LBC today, guys, and the guy said he's disappointed. And why he says disappointed is that these guys can go around and talk about affecting millions of people because of Russia, NATO, America, Britain. And this guy was saying, that's going to affect me trying to earn a living daily. He was just breaking it down to say, you guys need to just leave Putin. That's what he was actually saying. Leave them alone. Drink water, mind their business. Just leave them alone. Let them, because I don't know. One of the things about Putin, I'm getting to understand is that, and years ago, if we bring it back, when Cuba, I don't know who was the president or the premier for USSR, they were actually going to put missiles in Cuba, right? And America wasn't happy with that.
Yeah.
That's in my backyard. And there was this standoff with Kennedy was the president at that time. And NATO now is somewhat being coached or, inveigled with Ukraine in order for Ukraine to actually join NATO. Now, with that NATO forces and everything is going to be in Ukraine next to Russia. Russia is not happy with that. But the question I'm going to ask you, then why Russia don't want to join NATO? Anybody know why? Why Russia don't want to join NATO?
They could be rivalry.
Yeah, it's the North Atlantic,
Yeah.
what's it called? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I mean, that is very much an American-based organization. It was, I believe, at the outset of it was instigated because of Russia and the Cold War.
Yes.
So I mean, historically, Russia would not have been a part of this organization, nor would they feel a part of it now. One would have thought, particularly because they're throwing their lot in with China. Russia and China are so closely connected.
Aligned.
They are, absolutely. I mean, they see themselves as the kind of the counterbalance to the Western alliance. Europe and America, and we have a big standoff now. And I hope it doesn't end up in war. I mean, certainly there is a trade war going on now. There is a really big trade war because we are only years away from China potentially becoming the most dominant financial and military force in the world, and that's not going to please everyone in the States, is it? I mean, America's not going to take that line down. That'll impact on its influence and the balanced power globally. So, and Ukraine is part of this in a very significant way at the moment.
Yeah,
albeit small way in the whole picture.
I mean, Gary. I mean, they say Ukraine tension, Russia looking for excuse to invade USA. US keeps saying that actually today's Thursday. According to US, they should have invaded already. According to NATO, they should have invaded already. Russia is actually saying he's not doing it. You think these guys are playing games, Gary? What is the Lord saying?
I haven't received a brief from the Lord as yet, so I really can't say what the Lord is saying. But what I can see to some extent, and I do believe there is some reports coming out that because the whole world's eyes are upon the borders of Russia, Ukraine,
yes,
that Russia is sending a lot of their military hardware down to Syria. Because as you know, they're down there helping
Saddam.
Whatever. I can't remember his name. So I think that Russia, as someone coined the term, and it's a term that's from the Cold War days, they're doing brinkmanship. I think they're doing things to see the resolve of NATO, to see how far will NATO do or go in order to to bolster that area. So meanwhile, NATO now, I think at the same time the intelligent forces or services, they know what's going on in another part of the world. But you see, Ukraine seems to be a greater problem now as far as Europe is concerned. So they're concentrating on that. While Russia now is down in Syria bolstering Assad. That's his name.
Assad. So what you're actually saying is that there's a distraction Russia is doing now and doing some maneuvering at the same time.
Yeah. I think that is happening. I mean, it's not to say that they're not wanting to do anything with Ukraine, because I think they want all of the former Soviet republics back. You see, part of the deal, if you read, if you're up on politics to some extent, and I know that most of you are, that Russia a few years ago said to the United States and to NATO, don't come any further and don't try to get Poland and all of these other former Soviets involved in NATO. That is what Russia is saying. It's not that to some extent Ukraine has any value. They're saying don't, or pull back. They're saying pull back. Yes. Come back to some agreement that was made some years previously. Don't seek to take over. And because Ukraine now, it has been said, it's enshrined in their constitution that they join NATO.
Is that so? Okay.
Yes, it's enshrined in their constitution that they join NATO. Now, the president of Ukraine, you know, could to some extent negotiate with his people and say, listen, okay, let's do some negotiation here. Let's not just let us not try to join NATO to avert the problems. But you see, the government has said that they want to join. So anyhow, and I do believe that anyhow the Ukraine tries to do anything where that is concerned, Putin is not afraid to go in. I don't think Putin is afraid to go in.
Actually, there was one person within the Ukraine. I think it was one of the top guys were actually saying they're contemplating whether it is right at this time to join up with NATO. And also, Ukrainians are actually saying, something needs to happen soon. Because when I say something needs to happen soon, they need to really stop, Putin, because he does it all the while. He just come up right next to them and just, amass his forces. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is saying Russia could fabricate an excuse to invade its neighbor. Russia is actually saying, hey, we're going to pull back. But at the same time, Americans are saying they are seeing evidence of, it was 157,000 now. Russia Deputy Foreign Minister said the allegation, which have been echoed by Western leaders, going further now, that they said there's some shelling. Gary, I think you mentioned that some shelling in Ukraine, Donbass region, could be part of a Russian false flag effort. Adam, what do you think is happening?
I think Russia are taking advantage of a very weak point in the Western alliance, a weak time. You've got
a weak president.
You've got Joe Biden's known by his opponents as Sleepy Joe, and he's doesn't give that sense of he's going to strike back. Although he's been saying some menacing words, hasn't he, recently? But I mean, I suspect they don't amount to much in reality. You've got Boris Johnson, I know you like him, Sylbourne, but let's be honest, he's the clown, the clown of Britain.
Why do you say that? You put me on the spot there.
he's not going to war, and you've got Europe in a very difficult period, and also Nord Stream. One has to remember Nord Stream is the gas pipe to Germany, and Russia sees itself in a very advantageous position at the moment because we are reliant on Russia, which Germany is, on this Nord Stream, certainly now until we can get kind of electricity as our main source of power. I'm not sure about that, but who knows? And so they see us at a particular weak point in terms of resources, in terms of leadership, and they are using that to sort this issue for the long term. Putin's clear. He wants it sorted out, not just for the next year or two. He wants it sorted out in the long term. He doesn't want Ukraine in NATO, where they can then they can put missiles right on Russia's border, when he knows that there is going to be some serious conflict, possibly war going forward between China, Russia, and the West. Yeah, it's going to get really serious, and he doesn't want any missiles on his border.
Yolanda, what are you saying? What if you're a woman leader? What would a woman do? Because it seems like all these men are just fighting.
To be honest, I would go for the ally, because you never know what Russia would do. I'm not saying that they wouldn't pull back. I'm just saying it's better to form allies just in case. You can't really show all your hands because they're expecting him to be weak. So if you form the allies, it builds you a stronger case in case stuff goes south. Basically, it makes sense to form allies, and it might put some fear in them. So I think Ukraine's doing a bold move.
But don't you think these men are just? Don't you think it's time for women to actually take over and have sort out these things? Adam, and
definitely, I think women would be fairer. They're just gonna ignore each other, whereas men, they like to fight, so everything is war.
Thatcher, I'll say Thatcher Tuesday, Yolanda. Thatcher, I mean, you call her fair, blimey.
According to what you actually said, actually, I'm going to share this shortly. But according to what you actually say is that if women rule the world, they said there will be no wars, just a bunch of countries not talking to each other.
Exactly. It's true. That's exactly what it would be like.
Is that so? A bunch
Yeah.
a bunch of countries not talking to each other. You know what I mean? That would be
Everybody
very
funding
interesting.
for their own.
You
It'd
know.
be more like that.
But
But
anyway,
men like to
yeah.
stroke their ego. So it's a lot about men power and thing. I think Russia, because of their position, they're kind of like taking advantage a bit of Ukraine. So it's up to Ukraine to just stand their ground, I suppose, and form allies and just to squash it. Because I think if they don't, then Russia would not be seeing them as a worthy opposition, and then they can just have their way. So there's that.
I know I did ask this question already, but I remember Kim Jong Un, that guy there,
I mean, little
and
rocket man.
with Rocket Man. Rocket Man was making a lot of trouble before, and Trump went down there and quieted him down. And it's like Putin is actually doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or would you put Putin in that same level there, or because Trump? No, but I don't think they would have messed around if Trump was around.
Putin is more straight poker face. Trump is more crazy, so it's different type of madness, I suppose.
Deanne Murray Samuels has put in the comments box. People don't get why they're really fighting.
Yeah, it's just a power play. I seriously think it's not gonna come. Don't quote me. I seriously think there's not gonna be any war out of it. It's just Russia is trying to get the best they can with the situation. So they're trying to get they play in place for a long-term period, whereby if they can manipulate and force their way and get their outcome, they're gonna do that by bullying Ukraine. Basically, that's what they're playing at.
Just to explain to Deanne, in summary, the reason why this has happened is because, as the Reverend said, some years ago, we're talking around 3 decades ago, there was an agreement, although it is a verbal agreement, that Ukraine would not join NATO, would not be allowed to join NATO. And if you're part of NATO, this North Atlantic Alliance, then the alliance would mean that you could have weapons stationed in your country, which would neighbour effectively in Ukraine, Russia. And that's why Russia is so against Ukraine joining NATO. The timing of it, I think, is to do with Russia's power at this moment in time in the whole world, in the whole balance of power across the globe at the moment. So that's in summary, as I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's why.
But can I put a spanner in the works there? And someone said this today, and it was really profound. They're not fighting.
They're not.
There's no fighting going on. Dion, question: why are they really fighting? They're not fighting, Dion. No. Gary, is there fighting going on?
You see. Well, if we all listen to what the most eminent person said just now, the Right Honorable Adam. Right?
Yeah.
They are not fighting. There's a lot of posturing, just like in before World War I and World War II. If you watch what was going on there was a lot of negotiating. There was
back and forth, yes.
Right, and such. Now it just took one shot. It just took one shot. I think it was World War One. I think one shot, one bullet, and it killed. I can't remember who it was at the time. It killed somebody in Europe, a very high official, and that's when the war started.
Yeah,
that's when the war started. So we must expect what's happening now. We've got to expect that.
Yeah.
Just like with the mother of all battles, which was down in Iraq with Saddam, there was a lot of posturing, but at least. Something happened, and America went in. But I don't think, hearing what Adam has said there, yes, Biden hasn't got the appetite. He doesn't want war.
He doesn't want, yeah.
No, the Biden administration doesn't have the appetite for war. That's one.
But they just have to talk tough still.
Yeah, they have to talk tough.
Yeah.
And they're putting people in place and their armaments. Big bad Boris, he hasn't got a clue what's happening because not even Putin, right, wants to cancel a meeting with him, because he's nothing. He's just partying. That's why he's concerned.
Drink water, mind your own business. And
and then you've got the other players such as France, Germany. They don't have the appetite either.
I don't think anybody has the appetite, really. Nobody.
No,
After COVID, sorry.
Plus, just one last thing. Plus, it's election time for some of these countries. So So that's what President Macron is doing. His time for re-election is coming up. He doesn't want war. He wants another 4 or 5 years. What is he doing? The reason why he went to Russia is because he wants to get brownie points.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot going on that we really don't know underneath what's going on. But from what we see that they're playing chess.
So do we think then that Russia then is actually analyzing it just like Gary? Are you advising Putin or so? Because Putin knows the move. I think my show them because Putin might be listening now and realize that the West is weak now because they don't have the appetite while he has the appetite, and he just two we call it ends fighting. When I don't know, Adam. I don't know, you from the Caribbean. You have these fowls when they're ready to fight and posturing and so like that.
Listen. Yeah. I really think, and I don't know if Adam would agree, or I don't know if Adam or Yolanda would. What your point is, but if Russia went in, just for argument's sake, if Russia went in, I do not. Well, Biden already said that America wouldn't fight. Even though Biden has troops, where's he moved troops to? He's moved troops to neighboring countries, not in the Ukraine. If you watched it,
no, they're not touching Ukraine.
Exactly.
No, they're not going to touch them.
So if Russia attacks, will there be war? There may be, but only the Ukrainians will go in. I don't think anybody else will go in because they put the armaments there. They put their weapons there, but who's going to use them? They're going to use it. I don't think that the West will get in. I don't think so.
I see some old ladies with their little gun ready, Ukrainian ladies, and ready to fight the war. But anyway, I want to move on quickly from that because latest news came in about children between 5 and 11 to be vaxxed. I never like to ask persons their personal view or whether they're vaxxed or not, but what do you think about this? I mean, I was looking at it and it seemed to be like it doesn't add up because we're actually moving away from COVID to a certain extent. And they want to touch the children. I don't know. It's not adding up. And was even listening to a BBC interview in one of those medical experts, and he wasn't very convincing actually. That the reporter actually said, "Oh, very interesting." Like he was saying, well, it's up to the parents to decide. And even the health secretary, Sajid Javid, was actually more saying, well, it's the recommendation, but there's not seeming like any appetite, any drive. Do you get that? I don't know. Or Yolanda, go first. Yeah.
Oh, I think it doesn't make any sense because first
you're
they've not done.
You're a doctor.
They've not done any.
That's if you're a doctor. You're a doctor.
No, I'm not a doctor, but
based
on the research, they haven't done any clinical trial to say whether it's safe for children to have this vaccine, like how they did the adult version. It's been out for months. They just decide, oh, we're just going to give it to kids 5 to 11 years old. Let's just dilute it and give it to them. Yes. Why? Why though? When everything is opened up, back masses off, things have calmed down. What's the reason behind it? They don't know the side effects, how it will affect children, nothing. I just think, as a parent, I wouldn't be giving it to my child. It makes no sense.
And it's interesting what you said there, because what the gentleman said, it's up to parents actually to make a decision as to what they do for their children. Um, you know, Adam,
Like the
what?
way in which they
Sorry,
put out the
sorry,
article, like if we don't
talking.
have a choice as
Mm,
parents, like we have to give it to our kids. It's mandatory. That's what I have a problem with.
mm.
You're saying it's up to us, but you're trying to make it mandatory. Why?
But they're not saying that in the UK, is it? It's more Canada.
Well,
That's crazy.
Canada, that's a whole nother ballgame. Canada, they're delusional. I think they're taking away everything from human rights. From like nobody have a say anymore with Canada law. It's just
Mm.
bizarre, to be honest.
Let's leave the guy with the black face there for a second. Gary, what's your take on this COVID children vaccination? Children getting COVID vaccination.
My question is, have they vaccinated everybody in Ukraine as yet? And they want to vaccinate everybody else. Have they vaccinated Ukrainians yet? Have they done that? That's what I want to ask. Have they done that? They want to vaccinate all the kids. Have they vaccinated Ukrainians yet?
That's a very good question.
It's a smoke screen, mate. It's a smoke screen. All of these things are smoke screens. I believe all of it is smoke screens.
Mm,
Because it's from one thing to the next. If you notice, not they're hardly saying anything about COVID-19. Hardly. They're
yes.
not they're not putting up the stats. They're not saying, I'm not saying that nobody's dying or anything like that. That's not it. Hardly anything is being said. 5 months ago, uh, every minute of the news was 19. Now it's hardly anything. Hardly
We're not
anything.
we're not even here. We're not even hearing from Witty.
Nothing.
They left us all alone. They just leave us hanging.
I think probably he probably was an avatar.
Gary, you're on fire today, man. Man, they shut you down and things says me, Adam,
Can you imagine the outcry that if they really pushed the COVID vaccine on kids of 5 years age? I mean, there would be massive revolt in the UK if they pushed the vaccine like they have done for adults and for older children. Parents, you'd have them all over the TV, BBC News, Radio 4. They'd be saying this is wrong. You just can't do this. You're talking about very young children, primary school age. Not where, and there have been primary school age children haven't been the ones necessarily who've been transmitted widely. I'm not saying they don't transmit. They have been, and there have been primary schools that have been shut as a consequence. But it's mainly affected secondary schools, and it's really important with secondary schools. I'd say, well, more so important because of GCSEs and A levels. And I remember when you're 13, 14, legally, you can consent to these things, can't you? These vaccinations, because you're seen as Gillick competent.
Yes.
That's still with 13, 14, you're Gillick competent, whereas you're not from age 11 or under. So it's really down to you as a parent to make that decision. Yes. And I like what Yolanda said about, as a parent, you have to be extremely cautious. You put a child before yourself, and so you might get the vaccine yourself because you do care about yourself, but you care about your children more, and so you'll think carefully about anything that they have injected into them. And I can understand that, and I think there needs to be more information before this is pushed any further on young children.
Sylbourne, I mean, in addition to what Adam has said, and I would agree with that statement that he's made in regards to children. What is concerning, and I hear the concern in Yolanda's voice, and you can multiply Yolanda by many millions of women and families who have little ones and little children. Why are we going to inject something into people let's say people now, never mind children, into people, where it has not really yet been tested. We don't really know the full side effects of it. Never mind
Yes.
the genetic um, um, the genetic effect. Because when you go back to the 1960s, let's say 1959, 60 to be certain there. Remember this, as we now know, is it thalidomide, where mothers were vaccinated or injected, and when they had their children, they had children with no arms, no legs, one hand, hand with no digits or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was a terrible time. It was a horrendous time, and that never really petered out until probably in the mid '60s, because obviously they had injected people with that terrible drug for a particular reason. But obviously, it affected the babies. Now, when we inject people with what we have now, obviously, and I suppose people would probably make an assumption of where I stand on this thing, you know. But why are we injecting people? Yes, to counteract a problem now, which we do have. I'm not saying it's not there. We do have it. But it's saving lives now, which of course can be debatable. But yet we don't know the effects of what's going to happen in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Because when our young men, when our children who are vaccinated, then get married, they start having families, and then all of a sudden their children affect. And when they make their studies, and it comes back to what happened in 2020, 21, 22, because of the mass vaccination process that had to go through, what then is the government going to say? What then are the authorities going to say?
You're right about that in the sense that I think in a way the world needs to just settle down and just stop and just pause for a moment, really, in regards to all of these things. With Ukraine and Russia, it's like the world needs a settling down period, isn't it, Adam? Just to stop and just chill for a moment and just go outside, smell the breeze, shoot the breeze, look at the birds, the woodpecker, and all those other things.
Shoot the breeze.
Shoot the breeze, man.
But we got to balance it up, Sylbourne, because there are some parents who, because of elderly age or because they have health problems, they do want to get their children 5 to 11 vaccinated because they don't want COVID in the home. They have to be more cautious, and I can understand in their situation why they make that decision.
Yes,
make it now. I mean, it's a very sensitive issue.
It is. And everybody has to make up their own mind. They've got to be sure that what they do, they haven't been forced, but they've made up their mind to do it because they see it as a benefit. They've got to see it as a benefit to themselves, not think about anybody else.
I agree with that.
Well, the good thing about it is that, and it's very important that this is understood, that it is a choice that persons make, and therefore that choice is theirs. The whole thing about the mandate and the forcing, that is something which should not be tolerated and to be accepted. And before we go, I just play just this one video, if I can find it, of Adam's good friend. He's somewhere in Canada. He's in Canada. Where is he?
Just intruded.
This guy in Canada. Let me just see if I can find it actually and play it, and just listen to it for a moment. I think it's Yolanda friend or so. I don't know whose friend it is. Justin Schroeder. There it is. Tell me if you can hear it properly.
Public life isn't a naive dream. It could be a powerful force for change. If Canadians are to trust their government needs to trust Canadians. Those are the words of the Prime Minister in 2000.
Can you guys hear it?
These people, very often misogynistic, racist, women haters, science deniers, the fringe. Same prime minister 6 years later as he fans the flames of an unjustified national emergency. So, Mr. Speaker, when did the prime minister lose his way? When did it happen?
You're right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Conservative Party members can stand with people who wave swastikas. They can stand with people who wave the Confederate flag. We will choose to stand with Canadians who deserve to be able to get to their jobs, who be able to get their lives back. These illegal protests need to stop, and they will, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I just flagged that up there. What's your take on what's happening in Canada, briefly, in 2 minutes?
Well, I mean, from my point of view, I think it's a wider question here that governments are there by the consent of the people. And so it's really important that government actions are not forced upon people. They're done with the consensus, as much as possible. It isn't we don't have dictatorial democracies, effectively. I mean, maybe that's maybe those two phrases don't go together, but you know what I mean. The sense of when you elect a government, you elect it with a manifesto. You don't elect it to make decisions which are decisions which take away your liberties in an unfair way, in an unjust way. And so there has to be a balance in these areas. I suppose it's a bit like, I'm a big Labour man. It's a bit like identity cards that Tony Blair tried to bring in. Step too far. So there has to be. You have to respect people's liberties, and we're in a dangerous period of time whereby these big corporations they know every part of your life. They know what you buy at the shops. They know what you're looking at on Google. They who knows whether they know your emails, what you search on YouTube or whatever. And so really we have to find a way to manage these systems so that everyone has their own individual liberty and freedom to and personal freedoms without feeling like big brothers watching everything they do.
Yolanda?
I just feel that he's quite inhuman to the people and what the people are looking for him to demand that you don't have freedom of speech, you cannot protest, which I think was everyone's human rights, to be outspoken, to have freedom of speech. And he just ignored the question completely and just focused on his point. You must do this, you will do this, and you don't have a choice, basically. I think he's going to have a lot of backlash from the people as well as people within his party, because he's quite inhuman, to be honest, to what's actually happening, and quite dismissive to people's feelings. A lot of people and how it's affecting everybody.
A lot of people are saying he comes across very cold and callous, Gary, what's your take on this gentleman here and how he's been operating?
Mr. Trudeau, he was the one that was born right where he lives now, isn't it? His father was Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And he was born in it. He was born there. So he thinks he has the right to do what he wants to do. But it's funny that you should have brought this up, because I really feel, and it already, Yolanda.
No, it's a comment. Sorry.
Okay.
It needs psychological evaluating by sheriffs, yes.
If my right honourable friend Adam, they would agree. But I think that I think Mr. Trudeau, he's speaking on behalf of his generation. And when I say that, I mean this, that the leaders of today coming on board is going to be a Trudeau. I don't really believe, because we can slowly see the eroding of civil liberties, as Yolanda is saying. Slowly but surely, our liberties are being cut
eroded.
Yeah. And it takes a particular leader with a particular character to be able to stand up with no fear or anything to say that this is what we're doing, and I don't care what you say. Because Trudeau, he's had the silver spoon in his mouth. He was
Yes.
born when his family was in government. He knows nothing else but governing, so to speak. As far as I'm aware, he's a well-educated, fine,
Yeah.
but he knows nothing but governing, and he thinks he's got the right to say what he wants to say. That is why he's passed the bill of emergency when there's no emergency really, but he wants to control people, take away their rights. And if you don't mind, if we are not careful, I think it's a big signal to the countries of the West. It's a big red flag that if we are not careful, we're going to have a leader right in this country that will do almost the exact thing. And we are just going to sit. Well, there will be backlash. There's going to be. The backlash is here. It's just that Boris is not the right man at the moment. When you think of Austria, when you think of the Netherlands, when you think of France, in regards to the vaccine again, even though we have to come back to that, but it's just an example. Civil liberties are being eroded. Italy is another one. They've said that everybody that is over 50 cannot go to work unless they are vaccinated. So if you're not vaccinated, you can't work. Those kind of laws will come in. They're going to come, but it's going to take a particular character of a leader to stand in Parliament or to stand wherever laws are made to say what Trudeau is saying and not feel away.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up now. And is that why I actually use is Canada a litmus test? It's like they're watching it at the same time and using it as a prototype, if anything. And and in a way, can we safely say he has nothing to lose? He's like a hierarchy. Like when people say, what can they do to Prince Andrew? Because he's always a prince. He'll die a prince. He won't be a prince like a pauper prince. You know what I mean? You can't take away anything from him. You can strip him from a couple of roles, but he's still a prince. But guys, listen. Any last word, Adam?
Well, I just endorse the comments of Yolanda and the Reverend. I mean, I'm grateful. Thank you for bringing me on the show again, Sylbourne. That's all I've got to say.
Well, I always ask you to contribute to the worldwide evaluation of life in this way,
I mean, Adam, since Sylbourne has said that I'm kind of counseling Putin, I'll drop your name in there so you can.
But I just want to say one thing, Sylbourne. As a last comment, I should say the left need to be careful because the left have got this kind of. When I talk about the left, I'm talking about here the Labour Party. In Canada, I think Trudeau would be seen as the left. The left cannot be seen as a controlling entity. The right are now taking on this mantle that they are the people that will set people free. They are the libertarians, and they will give people their rights and they'll feel free within society. The left must be careful not to be seen as organizations, as people in government that will seek to control and dictate.
Yes.
If they do, they will lose and lose the game because the left isn't about that. The left is about giving people rights, having responsibilities, but also making sure that there isn't Big Brother on them all the time. That's not what the left is about.
Yeah.
Lady Ford tries to.
That's a powerful point there. And Gary, your last word?
I thought that was my last word. I'll get
Okay. Yolanda, the ladies actually, what they say, the ladies we're not going to talk to each other, isn't it?
No, I don't have no last word, but it was great, Adam and Gary. I quite enjoyed it.
Just a bunch of countries not talking to each other,
Exactly. It's better than war, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining. And those on Instagram, you can watch the show on YouTube. Those on Facebook as well. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you so much, Adam and Yolanda, for coming on this week. Okay. You can hear me okay, clearly, yeah?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. So we'll catch up again next week. Peace out and God bless you. All right.
Okay.
Bless you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bless you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you so much for joining tonight. And we'll meet again next week, Thursday at the same time. And as well this Saturday night, Talk and Sip. You can join us. Next week I will be having on the 27th. Yes, on the 27th, I'll be having a lady talking about 11 plus. Joe, let me see if I can actually find the flyer here. She's going to talk about, I think, during the course of the lockdown period, a lot of children struggled. And all you need to know about 11 plus, Miss Joan A. Green. Yes, she's going to be coming on the show. And she's going to have an interview with her on the 27th. Let me see if I can. There she is. All you need to know about the 11 plus. And that's going to be on the 27th. And then the following week after the 27th, we'll be having a new series which is called God and Government. God and Government going to be that week. And after God and Government on the 6th, then we go on to so let me see. Yep. The 6th, God and Government, 6th of March and the 20th of March. We'll give you more information on that. Definitely. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night. Remember to like and subscribe the show. And peace out. God bless you. All the best. Boom. One of the things that I think about a lot, and I think a lot, and most people think a lot, but if our thoughts come into fruition, the world might get crazy because they do not want us to talk. They just want us to think. And if they could actually stop us from thinking, they would cancel all of that thinking process. But I tell you this, when I see the advent of COVID, when I see the fact that COVID is on its way out, can we agree on that? And the characteristics of COVID, ladies and gentlemen, we all know it was to rob, steal, kill, and destroy. Yes, rob you of your employment, rob you of your finances, killing your family, killing your members of your friends also. Yes, rob, steal, kill, and destroy. That is what it was there for. But I'm appalled, and I'm sure many people is appalled as well, when we see leaders of this world somehow assuming the characteristics of COVID to rob, steal, kill, and destroy. And what they're doing, they are wreaking havoc upon the people that has elected them in position. Canada is a classical example. I think it's the best example. At the same time, there may be others. But ladies and gentlemen, as leaders of this world, I appeal to you. Leaders, your job is to bring unity. Reduce strife. Get people to work together. Stand together. Don't be you're like a thorn in their flesh, in their side. They want what is the best thing for their families. Their families. That is what they're standing up for. Their families. They don't care sometimes about you. It is when they see that their families are being touched. Their families have created the havoc against their families. Then they are going to stand up and they're going to say, get up, stand up for your rights. World leaders, do not assume the characteristics of COVID. Let COVID pass away and you bring the nation together, bring your people together. Don't be a thorn in their flesh. Don't be another virus. Thank you.